Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Melissa Mueller-Douglas, Megan Galloway, and Simon Coles. The question I have, how do you ask for help? Melissa, can you kick us off?
Absolutely. I'm very intentional about how I ask for help. And the way that I do that is by pausing to make sure that I'm strategic in where I am so that people can hear me. So the way that I do that is making sure that I know what it is that I want to get out of the question, right? Out of the ask. And yet I always have a give first mentality. So generally I've already filled someone else's yes bank before I'm asking for something in return.
There's an aspect of vulnerability, isn't there? Asking for help without demonstrating vulnerability is probably going to come across as a little bit entitled. And I guess if you're asking for help, given you're asking, you should make it easy to refuse. Otherwise, you're going to be not a very nice chap, are you?
I love that idea of being vulnerable first. I think that when you create a safe space for other people to ask for help, then it gives you that safe space back where it feels a lot easier to ask. So I think just having that two-way trust with people and having that foundation first where you have a relationship with them. And so it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. It's something that you're trusting them with because it's hard to ask for help. So having that foundation of trust is so important.
I know for me, one thing that I had to recognize is how I respond when other people ask for help. So to Simon's point, I sometimes will see people who will post their like Venmo stuff on social media and be like, hey, anybody want to send me money? And I'm like, let me roll my eyes so hard I fall on my chair. So obviously I would never do that because my response to that is so negative. And I had to notice some of that about myself. How do I respond to other people asking for help? Because then I would turn that around and assume that other people would respond the same way to me asking for help. So I had to overcome that.
There's another aspect of asking for help, so you've got to be able to receive it. And that's tough.
I suppose, Simon, that means that you have to admit, right, that you're not an expert in every area and that there are others who know more than we do in one particular topic. And I, being a licensed master's social worker, I've had, before my business, I had multiple supervisors, and there was one in particular who told me that she was done learning. She knew everything that there was that she needed to know about social work and therapy. And that's frightening to me. The fact that you believe that, lifelong learning isn't a reality for you, that you've peaked and you're comfortable with that. And not only that you've peaked in your knowledge and understanding, but you're not even open to the possibility that there could be more out there that you don't know. So being vulnerable to ask and then being receptive to receiving whatever you receive for support and help and guidance and knowledge from someone else's expertise absolutely have to go hand in hand. I hear you.
I love that idea of going in with an open mindset as well, because I think sometimes when you ask for help, you have to be open to the kind of help that you're going to get. And it might not always look exactly like what you're expecting at the time. And it may be something better or different than what you thought you needed. And that takes a lot of humility to admit that you don't know all the answers to your point, Melissa. I love that.
Also, when you ask for help, then are you asking for help for an outcome and you don't mind how it gets solved, or do you get really, really specific? And I guess that would be situational, wouldn't it?
And I think too, when you're asking for help, for me, I have to consider what is the impact on the people I'm asking. So for example, when I was in grad school, I had a professor one time tell me that the reason that people were harsh with me is because I looked like I had so much together and I was fine. And so they felt like they could shoot arrows at me because I had such a strong exterior. And I was like, well, that's not true. The same for asking for help is if everybody in my world thinks I'm the rock, if I ask for help, they fall apart because, oh my world, the rock is not okay. And so that's another thing to consider when you're asking for help is who are you asking and what is the impact going to be on them? And are you then going to be in a situation where not only are you drowning, but now they are too?
We're talking about, to some extent, social asking for help, where there's a social bond in some way, where you're sort of asking for a favor almost or something. But, we have support contracts and people will ask for help, hey, this doesn't work and so on. Or you might ask for help from a colleague as well, where to some extent you're entitled to a response. I mean, we have service level agreements, But I think even then, asking for help is an art. And we have some customers who are excellent. You know, I was trying to do this, this, and this, and this happened. And what I really would have expected was this. Can you help? And you get other people, it's like, oh, it's just wrong. It's all broken. There's a fire. And so I think there's an art to these things about knowing where to pitch your request in a way that gets the best out of whoever you're asking.
I agree with that, Simon. And also, I think it's really hard to ask for help in general. So I think if they've overcome whatever internal hurdles it is to ask for help, the person on the receiving end, like to your point earlier, Robyn, about how you respond to things, assuming positive intent and assuming that they're coming from a good place, even if they're coming off as harsh. I think that it's really hard to do that. And it's also really important just because it does take a lot of courage to be able to ask for help, because we're supposed to keep this facade of being strong, of having it all together. That's especially how social media has forced us to kind of fit into these molds of being perfect all the time. Like being imperfect is not the norm. So asking for help, I think, assuming positive intent when you get those asks is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also go in with a mindset that me asking for help can actually help someone else to boost their confidence in their area of expertise, to boost their understanding that if I'm willing and able to be vulnerable with them, they can do the same. It's reciprocal. And so I've found myself asking for support in one specific area, being very intentional about it, and then them coming back to me and saying, you know, because you asked me this, can I ask you this, right? So it's a give and take, but also I can see, especially when it's in person, I can see them light up because I'm strategic about who I'm asking and why. It's because I know that this is something that you're very good at, something that I trust you to give me great advice about. And so that's when you see people's body language change and, you know, they move close like Megan is, you know, on the front of their seats to be engaged and interact. And that's how you build relationships and how you build community.
Yeah. And that, I think the challenge with how do you ask for help, you have to recognize you need help. And then to your point, Melissa, who can actually help me? I think there are times where people just shotgun approach, ask for help. And it's like, well, if you didn't think about who could actually help you, that's not super useful. I think, Simon, you made that point about clients asking for help is if you tell me what you did, I can help you. If you just tell me it's broken, I can't really do much with that.
Yeah, we had one customer who got frustrated because things weren't happening as they wanted to. And in the end, we just had to tell them, you've got to ask better questions. We can only help you as much as you can express what the issue is here.
Yeah, I can't help you if you can't articulate what's wrong. Yeah. We tell toddlers, use your words, tell me what you need.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good point we should probably touch on is that when you ask for help, what do you need? What are you looking for? Do you just want to vent? Are you looking for an answer? Are you looking for solutions? Do you want to problem solve? What do you need?
Quite often people don't know what they want. And that's the skill of a good practitioner of whatever, lawyers and graphics designers and all that sort of thing, that they might be expert in their particular field, but they're also very good at people.
Yeah. Well, you know, my clients will often come to me for help, whatever that looks like. And I don't have answers. I have lots of questions. And that's what helps them, is giving them those questions. I guess maybe another point you just made me think of, Simon, is when you ask for help, maybe be open. Megan, did you say be open to whatever the solution that comes might be? So yeah, that too. So yeah. Do you have any specific stories that when you've asked for help and it did or didn't work out that anybody would like to share?
Absolutely. I just reached out to a business coach of mine, and I came in with that intentional, very specific question of what I wanted to focus on. And she used reflective listening, which, you know, as a therapist, I do as well, you know, open-ended questions, but she made this brilliant assumption. So she said, you know, when you put this content onto your app, and then she continued, and I said, can you pause for a moment? Because I had never considered taking this content and placing it on the app as well. And that actually solves another problem that I'm looking to solve, right? So I came in with one question and ended up resolving another question that was a little lower down on my list, but that freed up so much mental space for me to then work on my original question, you know, solo. So when we're asking for help, as long as we're not just, you know, scanning for what's the answer of exactly what I asked you, if we're open to actually listening, we can get so much more than we even came in for.
And what a wonderful place to end a 10-minute conversation. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to speaking to each of you again really soon.
Thank you.